Hola, ¿qué tal amigos? Buenos días, buenas tardes y buenas noches. No importa la hora que sea, siempre es un gran momento para estudiar, ver, hablar y aprender español con Profesor Pablo y Learn Spanish Fast, rápido, rapidísimo with Profesor Pablo. Our lesson today is to look at the verb haber, which is a special verb, and it has special forms that we're going to find out how to use today. When you want to say there is, or there are, or there were, or there was, and we're going to see we have like there will be, there would be, there has been, right? We're going to learn how to say all of them in one lesson because it's very easy to do, and you can't wait like 5 months or 7 months or in a regular Spanish class, wait to another year or two of the study of the Spanish language to learn them. We can do it all at once because we're getting somewhat fluent now with the usage of our verbs. We've gone over our verb numbering system. We know there are 10 things you can do to verbs. You can leave it in the infinitive form 0. You can put it in the ing, ando, yendo, 1. 2 is the hado, ido. 3 is our present tense. 4 is the preterite. 5 is the imperfect, which we're still in progress with. 6 is the future, will. 7 is the conditional would. And then 8 and 9 are the present and past subjunctive. But look and see what we have today. Let's take a look at our clusters. Our verbs are ver, to see, hacer, to do or to make, leer, to read, limpiar, to clean, pensar, to think, estudiar, to study, pintar, to paint, reparar, to repair, and explicar, to explain. We're going to see how we can use all of these listed here with mucho que plus infinitive. For example, there is a lot to see. You go to Europe, hay mucho que ver. There's a lot to do. Hay mucho que hacer. We're going to learn how to say there's a lot to do, there was a lot to do, there will be a lot to do, there has been a lot to do, there had been a lot to see. All these examples will become very clear here momentarily. Our nouns, tormenta is a storm, pelea is a fight, reunión is a meeting or a get-together, concierto, concert, descuento, discount, partido, game, conflicto, conflict, pregunta, question, accidente, accident. Over here, our final cluster, boda, wedding, fiesta, party, guerra, war, problema, problem, examen, test, baile, dance, and desfile is a parade. Okay, we're going to deal with these verb numbers later. That's not important right now. All right, let's take a look here. You can use all of these listed here, followed by a noun in these two clusters. These are common nouns that are used with these forms of the verb haber. And then you can use these as well with mucho que, followed by an infinitive. Let's take a look first and see what all of these mean. I is there is or there are. Hubo is there was or there were. For example, there was an accident yesterday. Hubo un accidente ayer. Había in translation to English means the same as hubo. There was or there were. But había is imperfect. So if you wanted to say there were always accidents at that corner. Siempre había accidentes en aquella esquina. Siempre había accidentes. There were always accidents. Hubo, we're talking about a one-time accident. Había, all the time, repeatedly. A key word to trigger your mind to think, okay, here comes here comes imperfect. When you say siempre and you're going into the past, then you're going to go into the imperfect because you're talking about a repeated past action in the past. Again, we haven't studied our lessons, preterite versus imperfect. They are upcoming. And once we get to those lessons, you're going to have a good head start on understanding. And when we do it, you're going to say, yeah, that makes sense. That's what we've been doing. And then when we're done with the lessons, you're really going to have a skill and know which way to go, preterite or imperfect. Habrá, that's future, will. There will be. If I want to say there will be a storm this weekend, habrá una tormenta este fin de semana. If I want to say there will be problems, habrá problemas. Make problemas plural with an S. Notice all of these stay singular. That's how haber is done. It's a very unique verb. Va haber is there is going to be. If I want to say there's going to be a war, God forbid, va haber una guerra. Now look at the ba and the a. The H is silent, so you have a V and you have 1, 2, 3 A's in a row. And then you have bear. You know, when you pronounce that word, it's just 2 syllables, ba bear. This is right here, right to here, this is just simply ba, bear, ba bear. Now teachers will slow it down and go ba, a bear to make sure that you can see in your mind that there are 3 words, ba, a bear. But people will say it, ba bear, ba bear. All right, let's go back up here to the one we skipped over. Habría, there would be. Okay, if you want to say there would be problems, there would be problems. Habría problemas. Habría problemas. Now, va haber, there's going to be. Iba haber, iba haber. 3 syllables now. Iba haber, iba a haber. Iba haber means there was going to be. How about we want to say there was going to be a dance, but then COVID hit, the pandemic strikes. There was going to be a dance. Iba haber un baile. Iba haber un baile. And then here, habido means there has been or there have been. If I want to say there have been many problems, habido, and again, look. The H is silent, the H is silent, and then the A. So this right here is just like a tongue depressor. Habido. Habido. That's real Spanish. Habido. There have been many problems. Ha habido muchos problemas. We're going to find out in Spanish that most words that end in MA are actually masculine. El problema, los problemas. We will have a lesson on those and list them for you. There have been many problems. Ha habido muchos problemas. There had been a lot of problems. Now they're solved, right? They've moved on. They've fixed the problems. So you want to say there had been. Había habido muchos problemas. Had, same here, right? Okay, so let's go over it again. I is the present tense. There is or there are. Hubo is the preterite. There was or there were. Había is the imperfect. Same thing, there was or there were. Habrá is future. There will be. Habría is a conditional. There would be. Va haber, there is going to be. Iba haber, there was going to be. There are going to be, there is going to be, there was going to be, there were going to be. And then here, habido, there has been or there have been, either way. Había habido, there had been. That's what they mean. Again, there is, there are, there was, there were, there was, there were, there will be, there would be, there is going to be, there are going to be, there was going to be, there were going to be, there has been, and there had been. Okay, that's what they mean. Take a look at the accent marks here on había. Why is there an accent mark on había and habría? Yes, we're breaking up the diphthong. Why does habrá have an accent? Remember, we told you words that end in a vowel are supposed to be stressed on the second vowel back. If you have a word ending in a vowel and is stressed, habrá, it's got to have an accent mark. It breaks the rule. Okay, that takes care of our accent marks. Now let's look at our verb numbers. We know in our verb numbering system, the present tense is 3, the preterite is 4, había is imperfect, that's 5, habrá is will, that's future, habría is would, that's conditional, and va haber is 30. What does 30 mean? Well, 30 is just simply present tense. Ba is in the present, right? Boy, bas, ba. And then haber is an infinitive. So it's a 30. There is no number for the a. Iba haber, well, iba is imperfect, 5. Haber is infinitive, 0, so it's a 50. Ha habido, right? A is in the present tense, 3. Habido is the past participle, which is verb number 2. So that is a 32. Había, habido, había, once again, is imperfect. 5. Past participles are always 2. That's a 52. Don't you see that of the gazillion verbs in the Spanish language, and then multiply that exponentially by the amount of different ways you can conjugate them? No matter what you have, every verb is either going to be 0 through 9. It's going to be one of those numbers, 0 through 9, every single time. And what's going to happen when you hear ing, that language learning module in your head is saying, ing, that's an ando y yendo, right? That's a present participle. When you hear ado, ido, you're going to know that's a past participle, that's a 2. When you hear the verb ending in R, like trabajar, comer, recibir, leer, casarse, you know it's 0, it's infinitive. Present tense, we all get the present tense. I eat, I study, I walk, I like, I live, I breathe, I drink, I run, I drive, I pay attention in class, I do well. We know how to identify a verb in the present tense. So to identify the 3 is easy. The 4, preterite, past. Both 4 and 5 are the past tenses. I went, I did, we saw, I bought, it rained, the car cost a lot. All that is going to be preterite. Imperfect would be things that you used to do or that you would do in the past. Oh, I would always get together with my friends. We would play baseball. We would watch TV. On Saturdays, we would go to the movies. Those would be 5 imperfect. So the only time you really got to think about anything is when you get to the past. Is it preterite, a one-time completed past action, or is it imperfect, an incomplete, repeated past action in the past? That's about the only time you've got to use some reasoning. But as we practice, you'll get really good at it. Now 6, future is will. If you hear will, it will rain, lloverá. They will come a little bit late. Vendrán, llegarán un poco tarde. This is the would, conditional would, what you would do today, tomorrow, next week, or next year, or far off in the future. I would go, but, iría, pero. We would buy it, but. Lo compraríamos, pero. 7 is a conditional. And then 8 is a mirror image of 3, the present subjunctive, and 9 is a mirror image of the preterite 4. That's it. Like we said before, on that chart that I put, the verb matrix, okay? I know it's kind of hard to look at a chart for a half hour and listen, but I'm just trying to have you understand the totality of the Spanish verb universe and know, again, if somebody spoke for 5 hours in Spanish and you took every verb and put it in that hopper and it comes down the chute, every single verb is going to fall into one slot. It's going to be one of these 10 slots. And now we're able to identify what kind of a verb situation we have. Certainly when something ends in ing, we know it's going to be a 1. If something ends in ed, it's going to be a 2. If something ends in the infinitive, it's going to be a 0. That's easy. And then of course, will and would, that's easy. Present tense is easy. 4 and 5 are both past tenses. Again, a little bit of thought. All right, let's practice with our verbs. There's a lot to see. Hay mucho que ver. There's a lot to do. Hay mucho que hacer. There's a lot to read for that class. Hay mucho que leer para la clase de literatura. Let's go with limpiar. Hay mucho que limpiar en la casa. There's a lot to clean up in the house. Let's go with pensar. Oh yeah, there's a lot to think about. Hay mucho que pensar. Estudiar. Oh yeah, in my phys class. Hay mucho que estudiar. Pintar. There's a lot to paint. This house in the barn, are you kidding me? Hay mucho que pintar. Híjole. Reparar. You bought a fixer-upper, right? And oh my gosh, it's a wreck. The house is a wreck, but it's going to look beautiful, right? And you say, hay mucho que reparar. Hay muchísimo que reparar. There's a lot to repair. You come home, you screwed up. We all mess up in life. We all make mistakes. We say things we don't mean sometimes, right? We get tired. We might get a little grouchy. That's just the human condition. But then you come home and you say, Mom, there's a lot to explain. Hay mucho que explicar. Hay mucho que explicar. Okay, drop down to hubo. Okay? let's say you're talking about your trip to Europe, it's over, and you want to say, hubo mucho que ver, there was a lot to see. Oh yeah, in that class a couple years ago, there was a lot to read. Hubo mucho que leer. For my math class, there was a lot to study. Hubo mucho que estudiar. You're summarizing. It's over, done, completed. You view it as a completed past action, like a gift with gift wrapping. It's done. It's over. Había, if I say siempre, that's a trigger word for imperfect. There was always a lot to see. Siempre había mucho que ver. There was always a lot to clean up. Siempre había mucho que limpiar. There was always a lot to repair. Siempre había mucho que reparar. Habrá, there will be a lot to do. Habrá mucho que hacer. There'll be a lot to think about. Habrá mucho que pensar. There'll be a lot to see when we go to India. Habrá mucho que ver. Beautiful country. There will be a lot to say. Habrá mucho que decir. There will be a lot to explain. Habrá mucho que explicar. Habría. If we had the money and if we were to go, right? Si tuviéramos el dinero, that's a 9. You're not going to get to a 9 unless you know the 4. Si pudiéramos ir, if we could go, there would be a lot to do. Habría mucho que hacer. Habrá mucho que hacer. There will be a lot to do. Habría mucho que hacer. There would be a lot to do. They call it conditional. Why? Because it's conditional of you doing that. It's conditional on, say, maybe having enough money to make the trip. Va haber. There's going to be a lot to read this summer. Va haber mucho que leer. We're going to go to a great restaurant. There's going to be a ton to eat. Va haber mucho que comer. There's going to be a lot to pay for. Va haber mucho que pagar. There's going to be a lot to do. Va haber mucho que hacer. There was going to be a lot to read. Y va haber mucho que leer. There was going to be a lot to see. Y va haber mucho que ver. You're talking about a trip that you planned but didn't take. A class you planned to take but you didn't take. There was going to be a lot to do. Y va haber mucho que hacer. But the pandemic hit, right? There was going to be a lot to think about. Y va haber mucho que pensar. There was going to be a lot to explain. Y va haber mucho que explicar. The point is, in English, I know you know how to say there is, there was, there will be, there would be. We say it all the time. Let's learn it today, right now. And when we do that, let's take a look at what the verb tenses are so that we further understand and get a grasp on the Spanish verb. Down here, habido. Habido, there's been a lot to do. Someone says you've been on a trip for 2 weeks and they say, are you bored? ¿Estás aburrido? No, para nada, not at all. Para nada, not at all. There has been a lot to do. Ha habido mucho que hacer. There's been a lot to read. Ha habido mucho que leer. This contract, there's been a lot to think about. Ha habido mucho que pensar. Había habido. Why did it take so long to sign the contract? ¿Por qué tardaron tanto en firmar el contrato? There had been a lot to think about. Había habido mucho que pensar. There had been a lot to process. Había habido mucho que procesar. Okay? There had been a lot to paint. Había habido mucho que pintar. Be honest with you, this is not really common. But if you want to extrapolate this haber all the way through, this would be it. Habido, very common. Let's look at them all. Hay, hubo, había, very common. Habrá, habría, very common. Va haber, iba a haber, very common. Habido, very common. Había, habido. Just put it on the back shelf in the refrigerator, back in the corner, and after 6 months you'll see expired, right? It's not used very much. That's what I'm trying to say. But that's how you would say it. There had been. Now we're going to find out that habido and había habido work better with nouns, and we'll see that right now. All right, let's take a look at all of these again with our nouns that we have listed. There is, there are, there was, there were, both of them. Habrá, there will be. Habría, there would be. Va haber, there is going to be, or there are going to be. Iba a haber, there was going to be, or there were going to be. Ha habido, there has been or there have been. En había habido, there had, H-A-D, been. All right, let's go with tormenta. There's going to be a storm. Va a haber una tormenta. Talking about Joe Frazier. Did I tell you about my second fight with Joe Frazier? I said Joe's going to come out smoking, and I ain't going to be joking. I'm going to be pecking and poking and pouring water on Joe smoking. This might shock you in the measure, but I destroyed Joe Frazier. There he is. There's going to be a fight. Va a haber una pelea. Oh my gosh. I absolutely loved following Muhammad Ali. I went to 2 of his fights in person. The Ken Norton fight in Los Angeles. I went to the Jerry Quarry fight in Las Vegas. I will tell you, I get goosebumps when I think of the excitement. You could cut the excitement and the tension with a knife at a Muhammad Ali fight. Ali Frazier, that was the biggest sporting event ever in my life for sure. Just unbelievable. And I have nothing but the greatest respect and admiration both for Smoking Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali. All right, let's get back. There's going to be seriously, I got goosebumps. I'm sorry. Va a haber una pelea. There's going to be a meeting. Va a haber una reunión. We hear that all the time. There's going to be a meeting, right? There's going to be a problem. Here it is. Va a haber un problema. There are going to be problems. Make it plural. Va a haber, it stays the same. These do not go plural. Singular. There's going to be a lot of problems. Va a haber muchos problemas. Now you might hear some people use something plural like van a haber. That's okay. Don't engage. It's fine. You understand what they're communicating. You get it. But this is the way, this is how it's taught. This is the accurate way, not to say the other way. I don't ever like to say something is inaccurate, but this is the common academic way of explaining the verb haber. We don't go plural. For example, there will be problems. You don't say habrán problemas. There would be wars. Habrían guerras. No, it's habría guerras. So we use the singular form, okay? And of course, you don't want to correct someone, right? It's not our place to correct people. But if you're in a classroom and we're teaching, we're going to let you know exactly how it is. Okay, let's take some more examples. Let's go concierto. There was a great concert last weekend. Hubo un gran concierto el pasado fin de semana. There will be a great Lady Gaga concert this summer. Habrá un gran concierto de Lady Gaga este verano. Habrá. Let's go with descuento. There is a discount. Hay un descuento. Hay un descuento. El 50%, 50%. ProfesorPablo.com. Let's go here with partido. There was a game last night. Hubo un partido anoche. There's going to be a game. Va a haber un partido. There would be a game, but it's raining. Habría un partido, pero está lloviendo. Let's go with conflicto. There has been a conflict. Ha habido un conflicto. There have been many conflicts. Ha habido muchos conflictos. There was going to be a conflict. Iba a haber un conflicto, but it was already resolved. Okay? Let's take a look at accidente. On that street, there were always a lot of accidents. En esa calle siempre había muchos accidentes. There were a lot of accidents during the night. Había muchos accidentes durante la noche. If you're talking about over the years, reminiscing, había muchos accidentes por la noche. But if you're talking about last night, and you live by a thoroughfare and there happened to be many accidents, God forbid, there were many accidents, would be hubo muchos accidentes anoche. Okay, let's go with pregunta. There's a question. Hay una pregunta. There were, at the conference I went to, hubo muchas preguntas. There were many questions. When I was a teacher, cuando era maestro, that's imperfect, 5, cuando era maestro, there were always many questions. Siempre había muchas preguntas. Okay? There will be a lot of questions. Habrá muchas preguntas. I don't know, if you spoke on that topic, I'm sure there would be a lot of questions. Habría muchas preguntas. All right, let's take a look over here. Let's go with desfile. January 1st, right? In Southern California, the Rose Parade. El desfile de las rosas. World famous. There will be a parade. Habrá un desfile. There won't be a parade. No habrá un desfile. There's a parade every year in Pasadena. Hay un desfile todos los años en la ciudad de Pasadena, California. Let's go with the next word, baile. There's going to be a dance. High school kid, right? Get to meet those pretty girls, or the pretty girls get to meet the handsome young man. Va a haber un baile después del partido. Friday, after game dance. You remember those maybe. Va a haber un baile. There's going to be a dance. There was a dance. Hubo un baile. There were always dances at that church. You know, you lived in the neighborhood, and they always had dances there. Siempre había bailes en la iglesia. Let's go with examen, test. There's going to be a test. That's what a teacher says. Va a haber un examen. Va a haber un examen. After the test is over, you say, hubo un examen. There was a test. There is a test today. Hay un examen hoy. Let's go with problema. We've done problema. There have been a lot of problems. Ha habido muchos problemas. There will be problems. Habrá problemas. There were not any problems. No hubo problemas. Let's go with guerra. Guerra, which is a war, right here, guerra. Okay? There was a war. Hubo una guerra. It lasted 2 years. Duró 2 años. Okay? Hay una guerra. There is a war. There would be a war. I'm telling you. Habría una guerra. There will be a war. Habrá una guerra. That's a scary thought. Fiesta, party. Now here's a good thought. Party. There's going to be a party. Va a haber. I'm telling you. It's like that babar, that elephant story for little kids in English. I don't know if many of you are familiar with it, but babar, B-A-B-A-R, I think, is that elephant. It kind of sounds like babar, but it's baber, baber. Baber is so common in Spanish. Baber, baber, baber. If I had a strand of hair for every time I hear baber during a course of time, I'd have a full head of hair again. That's not going to happen. That's okay. Baber, okay? There's going to be a party. Va a haber una fiesta en mi casa este fin de semana. Empezando. There's going to be a party at my house this weekend. Watch this. Va a haber una fiesta este fin de semana en mi casa. Now I'm going to go to one. I'm going to take the ing. Empezando a las 8. Starting at 8. Don't you see how you can manipulate? You can create all these verbs. It's not hard. It's like learning how to tie your shoes. Once you know how to do it, you do it well for the rest of your life. Let's go with our last one, boda. There's going to be a wedding. Va a haber una boda. Unfortunately, the church had plumbing problems. They had to cancel it. There was going to be a wedding. Iba a haber una boda. Iba a haber una boda. There will be a wedding at the church this Sunday. Habrá una boda en la iglesia este domingo. There were always parties at that house. Siempre había fiestas en esa casa. All right? Good. This is a huge lesson. This is like a tsunami hitting us. Now you know the verb haber. It has its own special way of working. We've gone through all of these. I, there is, or there are. Hubo and había both, there was or there were. Hubo is for something that happened and over, and había is something that repeatedly happened in the past or always happened in the past or wasn't over when you were referring to it. For example, when I was driving home last night, anoche cuando estaba manejando a la casa, where does estaba manejando? Well, estaba is imperfect and manejando is a one. Cuando estaba manejando a mi casa, there were a lot of people outside. Había muchas personas afuera. Había muchas personas afuera. And here, habrá, there will be. Habría, there would be. Va a haber, there is or there are going to be. Iba a haber, there was or there were going to be. Ha habido, there have been. and reaching back in the corner of that refrigerator shelf where no man or no woman ever goes, right? In that back corner, or the back corner of a drawer, right in your refrigerator, you find that head of lettuce that's been in there a little too long. Había habido. There had been. Example, there had been many problems. Había habido muchos problemas. Okay, so that's how these work. We use them with nouns, right? Go straight to the noun, as we did. And we used mucho que, a lot to, for example, there will be a lot to study. Habrá mucho que estudiar. And let me jog your memory. Remember we had general recommendations dozens of lessons back, and if you just want to give a general recommendation and say, hay que estudiar, you got to study. Hay que pagar las cuentas, you got to pay bills. You got to work to earn money in life. Hay que trabajar para ganar dinero. You got to be a good person. Hay que ser una buena persona. You've got to put effort in it. Hay que echarle ganas. Right there. Powerful. Ay, capitán. You've got to drive slowly. Hay que manejar despacio. So this is a power-packed lesson. Haber, it's up there. It's way up there on the list of most commonly used verbs. And all these forms that we just went over come from the verb haber. We did have another accent mark. Yes, reunión. Why is there an accent mark there? Well, we know that tío for uncle has an accent on the I. We know that the word for river, rio, has an accent on the I. To break up the diphthong, remember, a diphthong are two vowels together making one sound. When you put an accent mark on the I, you break up the diphthong, and now you have two separate sounds. But here, we're not breaking up the diphthong. We're not putting an accent mark on the I. Why are we putting an accent on the O? Well, very quickly. Words that end in N, S, or a vowel are supposed to be stressed two vowels back. Should be the U. The I and the O are functioning as a diphthong as one sound because we're not breaking it up, right? So the stress should be on the U, but it's not. It's over here on the O. By putting the accent mark on the O, we keep the diphthong intact and we get the yo sound, like the Rocky movie. Yo, Adrian. Yo, Adrian. Reunión. Reunión. Accent on the O. And we've mentioned it before. Let's mention it again. All words that end in I-O-N are going to have an accent mark on the O. That's right. Okay. Gracias por todo. The verb numbers are in green here, right? Verb numbers in green. And the reason I made these a little different, just to show that 4 and 5 are the two past tenses, 6 and 7 future conditional, 8 is a present subjunctive and it works with the present tense, 9 is a past subjunctive and it works with the preterite and the imperfect. And of course, 0, 1, and 2, piece of cake, infinitive, ing, and past participle. Okay, amigos, that's it for today. Thank you very much. Keep coming back for these lessons. Go over them. And again, I mentioned on last lesson, I think I said that pull out your cell phone occasionally. If you don't have the profesorpablo.com system, take a picture of the board here and just put it in your picture file on your phone, tablet, or computer, and you can just pull it up to study to get a visual reminder. Okay? All right, that's it. Gracias. Hasta pronto. Bye.